My name is Terri Messenger, and I am
Hey, and welcome to Terri Messenger's Genius Zone. And, this is the place and the space where you are going to get your own free masterclass absolutely free. So, it's almost like, okay, now you have, is it your predestination to have free will? Is it your predestination to look at what you've been through? Mm-hmm. I mean, when I walked in here today, I heard a man who was very convicted about what he was talking about. So, wow. It is. I mean, this is a deep subject.
It really
right?
is, yeah.
It is.
But it should be talked about. Something you've just said, about people not being aware of this, right? So I'll look down the camera, so to speak, on this one. It is important for people to know, right? Okay, how often when you have a delay out there in your, you're getting on the train, the train's been delayed, right? Do you know why your train's been delayed?
Soul contract.
No, your train's been delayed because someone's committed suicide and jumped in front of the train. Do you know how many people, not always, obviously, do you know how many people, and I am averaging here, okay? It's Edge Radio Australia, time for the Genius Zone. Very excited about today, getting into this one, because we built up the anticipation. Oh, yeah, didn't we?
We did.
Normally, of course, you see this lovely woman here sitting on the couch doing her thing on a Wednesday, am I right?
That's right.
That's right.
We
there
try.
We go.
We
try. But, the computer said no. We had a bit of an explosion of the old girl. The computer finally said no. We're not going to play the game.
Are you calling me an old girl again?
Talking about the computer completely. Oh, I'm not that stupid. I've done many things, never that dumb. I'm really looking forward to today's show. I really love the Genius Zone. It's it is just really cool to be authentic about your conversations, right? Yeah. Just none of this how's the weather kind of thing. We get into it, and I really love that.
Absolutely.
Love the interaction.
No small talk.
Who's got time for that, right? And look, honestly, get your questions in. That's always a fantastic thing. We've got some from last week, which is what they've come in through the week. We did that in unison. Check it out. All right, shall we get into the show? Terri, do you want to talk about what today's show is actually about?
It is a big one, Aaron, which is the reason I believe that everything blew up on Wednesday. Okay. And I was a bit unsure whether it would blow up again today. But apparently we are on. Mm-hmm. So this is soul contracts. Do we break them or do we shape them? A big topic.
It certainly is.
Yeah, it's a good one. I did a bit of theology, can you believe?
Right.
Going back around about 12 years ago. I failed.
Okay.
But, I'm glad to hear. But I did end up passing. So I was actually studying a Bachelor of Ministries when I didn't know what on earth was going on in my life.
Wow.
Everything fell apart. But then I met Ian through that actual experience.
Right.
So everything at that point, Aaron, was literally upside down. Nothing made sense. Mm-hmm. All my relationships were falling apart. I mean, my first marriage was broken down. The community that I was in, it was just really heartbreaking situation there. Because when the relationship kind of went south, nobody could accept it. It was like, no, that cannot happen.
It looked too good on paper.
It looked too good on paper. And this is the thing, there's no perfect relationships out there. Yeah. But I realized that not just my relationship then, but all those relationships that went south were soul contracts.
I don't know about this. I keep hearing this term, and I know so many people who believe very strongly in this. I'm still teetering. I'm still not there yet because I'm in a soul contract. Well, actually, before I go any further, how about you define what a soul contract actually is?
Okay, so it's really woo-woo, Aaron. In fact, when I mentioned it to you the other day, I was absolutely shocked and stunned that you knew about it.
Is that right?
Oh, well, sorry, but I was. Because it's something that I hadn't really looked into, delved into, and studied till much later in the spiritual kind of element. So a soul contract is what we call in the worldly world of world a script that has been written before we're even born. So they say that in the worldly world of worlds, you actually said, like the superhero. So imagine you are about to run a movie and you are the superhero in this movie and you're like there, and I'm not going to mention God in this particular sequence because this is the worldly world of worlds, but you actually signed up for everything. You said, I'm going to have this happen in my life, that happen, that person's going to hurt me, that person's going to steamroll me, that person's going to rip me off, my house is going to burn down, my ex-wife is going to rip me off, I'm going to be, everything you signed up for, you wrote it.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I need better script writers, obviously, because, they've written Armageddon pretty much, so maybe they're just writing a hell of a movie. That could be it.
So that's how it is. It's kind of like almost, it's like karma. When I say karma, it's only karma in some senses, but the prescript is more interlinked with the soul contract. Now, when we're talking about it from the Christian point of view, this was a really big topic because when I was studying theology, I mean, it's all about arguments and, do we believe in this? Do we believe in that? And the topic came up of predestination. So everything is predestined.
See, I struggle with this because I'm a big believer in free will, right? I think that you can change your destiny. I think that you can, just knuckle down and make the changes in your life you need to when we all fall off the old path at some stage. So, I don't know.
But the good news is, though, Aaron, that predestination does come into free will. Because free will, if you're looking at it from a theological, there was one theologian that believed in grace, which means that, there's that forgiveness and that grace, which is kind of almost like the head honcho for that theologian. Then you got faith over works. So, when it comes to predestination, free will comes in where the topic of this show happens to be break them or shape them. But you've got to be able to go through the learnings. So even though you may have said, okay, I'm going to hire for this movie, I'm going to be Evel Knievel or Peter Brock or whoever you want to be. You're going to bring in all of these stars. It's like a movie. And, so look at your life like a movie. And it's almost like, well, if I'm going to be the hero, for those of us who come into this knowingness, this all knowingness about it, not all knowingness, that's an affront to God, but you know what I mean. Then, over the other side of our learnings, and we're never going to get to the end of our life thinking that we've learned everything we needed to learn, because then life would be perfect.
And it's never going to happen.
It's never going to happen. So in reality, the things that you're meant to learn will be learned. And can you notice though, Aaron, I know I can. I've got a situation going on at the moment. I did tap on it before. But it's like, oh no, not this again. The same situation. Like even like my family, especially my kids and my ex, will go, here she goes again. Why does she always end up, hiring dodgy tradies? It'll be, like that. So at the moment, I'm dealing with a person who's not only in a situation where they've kind of deserted the job, taken my money and ran. But they've had a meltdown on site. So they've literally melted down inside our house 3 times. Even though my husband's getting around with this, toe that's amputated or toeless.
Is he walking in circles a lot? I'm just wondering.
Maybe.
You've got to make a lot of it. He's a great guy.
But here we are with a tradesperson. Who else would have a tradesperson who yells and screams, telling you he's having an anxiety attack, tells you every single thing about his life and everything, while he doesn't know you from a bar of soap, and rings you up and asks you for money, even though he's already set up a contract, And that was a contract. And then turns around and abandons it.
Right.
Abandons the whole situation. We've got someone backstage.
Yeah, we have. People are sneaking in everywhere.
I
Look
know,
at that.
right?
Fantastic. Just by the front door there. There you go, in a little bag. There we go. Just having something picked up.
Yes. So, the soul contracts, I had a soul contract for this to happen.
See, did you really?
But I need to learn something, Aaron.
Okay.
Like, what do I need to learn? I probably need to learn to do my due diligence a little bit better. And maybe, even though I'm a big believer in the speed of trust, I don't know whether you've ever read that book by Wayne Dyer.
No. I've read 3 books in my life. So
okay, well, join the club. Yeah. Maybe you've read more than me. So I listen to them on audio. So I really suggest that if you're not a bookie or a bookworm. But he talks about the speed of trust. So by kind of drawing people's personality or their character, believing in them. And Ian and I made this decision together because we knew he had a meltdown even when we parted with half of the money for the kitchen that's supposed to be installed. And then he was asking me for
That's a lot of money. These are not cheap things.
No. And so he was asking for more money, but in such a desperate way. And Ian says, well, look, he tells us that all his clients have ripped him off. Nobody pays him. I did ask myself the question, why are his clients not paying him? That did kind of come into play.
Look, perhaps he's not finishing the job. Right, honestly.
No, if he's he told me that one poor lady has been eating, hasn't eaten at home for 4 months, 5 months.
Whoa.
So he's kind of doing this and he's asking for money all the time. Okay. And he's obviously, I think he might be feeding a habit. But I kind of went with what I felt what Ian said was quite true, because he said, let's trust him. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt, because let's go away from what he's used to doing. Yeah. And we did it, but no show.
Okay. Oh, look, this is a tough one. If you're a very open person and you see the best in people, guess what? This is a situation we get in because we think the guy's had a rough go. You know what? I'll give him a better experience this way by, paying the bill, helping him out, paying in advance, because it's going to, maybe it'll teach him that not all his clients are wrong in that respect, and this is a positive thing. The problem is that you get, and it sounds to me from the inside or outside rather looking in, it sounds like a professional victim. It sounds like a guy who he's got a problem for every solution, a guy who is creating this himself, right? And I would agree, he's probably got a habit of some description. It's very sad. And I always think, because I've done this a million times, right? Exactly what you've done, I have done it time after time. And every time I'll never do it again. I'll never do it. And then I see, they're a bit down on their way and all going to carry on, right? We need to learn from our mistakes on this one. We do. And, we need to be a little less soft, which is hard because it's against who you are as a person.
Yeah. Look, absolutely. So it's about assertiveness. And I can't help thinking that if we do have a soul contract where we feel that we have to be nice to people in order to be accepted, what usually happens is, as a result of being nice to people, you end up being nasty. Because it's perhaps a bit of an oxymoron. Because they take advantage of you. Yeah. Where I find it's like bosses. If you get a boss and I mean, Ian and I did go over this, but if you get a boss who's really soft, very generous, very kind, what happens is it's human nature that person doesn't know their boundaries. So they push, and then boom, there's a big blow up. And
so it often take advantage there.
Bad because the boundaries wasn't set in. And, for me, I know the soul contract is about, Terry, you've got to be firm. You've got to be able to. And also there is something that this man is teaching me.
Right.
And let's face it, Aaron, as a coach of NLP and hypnosis, these are my clients. I've dealt with heavily drug addicted people that have been so much on heroin, and I've seen the 60-something-year-old parents who are beside themselves because they're 38, 40-year-old adult person who is highly addicted to something like ice, heroin, is in a position where they're forcing. They become the one with the raw. So they're convincing them to give them the money to buy the drugs. But the parents are in this kind of situation where they don't know what to do. And then when it comes to, hang on a minute, this is part of the soul contracts too. When you are going through a mess, and I wouldn't call this a mess for me. I mean, there's much worse things we can be talking about here, Aaron.
I don't know. This is a minor cleanup.
This is
right, okay, not that big a mess.
Just sort of a little sample here.
Okay.
So our listeners can kind of get the drift. We're literally going through a detoxification. So the soul contract, the prescript, the predestination, all written, God knowing all the hairs on our head. Sorry.
There are some there.
Maybe on you.
They're just very short.
So, you know, it's almost like, okay, now you have, is it your predestination to have free will? Is it your predestination to look at what you've been through? I mean, when I walked in here today, I heard a man who was very convicted about what he was talking about.
Who is this fella?
And who is this man? And I thought, gee, he ought to be on the show today because he's had a very big soul contract with someone who has really hurt him.
Correct.
You want to talk about it?
Oh, I thought we were going to talk about other people's problems, but okay. Yeah, look, for sure. I mean, today I actually did I had an interview with an organisation called Mutual Respect. Mutual Respect is a brilliant new, I mean, it's basically evolved into where it is now, where it is about men and women coming together and literally looking for a future with mutual respect and stop the misandry that's going on. It's very, very much focused on parental alienation and stopping parental alienation, which is the big thing in my soul contract, I guess, which is the big underlying factor of it's been 8.5 years since I've seen my children. Right? It's disgusting.
It is.
That is just so morally corrupt at every single level. It's just and particularly the way it was done, and the pretext of how it was done, and the blatant lies of how it was done, and the people that were hurt for the price of this person just wanting control.
Yeah.
Right. So it hurt so many people. This is the thing. So from my point of view, I spoke to this organisation. And I don't want to just sit in there and have this negativity. I want to actually show people there's hope. There's another side to things, and we can work together and do this. So, yes, when you walked in, I was actually in the middle of an interview for that. And I thank Daniel very much for the opportunity because the more we share our stories, the more people can actually understand what's going on in the world. They can also understand that they're not alone. This is a big, big, big deal, right?
Absolutely.
Like right now, I'm going to go down my little path here. Right now, 76% of suicides are male. 76%. Like one's too many, right?
Do you know, even boys? That was even noted with someone saying that boys have got that more notorious.
You know why? I'll tell you right now, because right now there's a complete campaign against men and boys, and specifically aimed at boys, to effectively teach them that they are faulty females. That's what boys are being taught right now. When you've got in schools in Australia right now, boys are actually having to stand up in front of the class and apologise to women for how former generations have treated women. It's, it's not their problem, and it's how dare you put that guilt on. Now, I'm going to go religious here for a moment. Okay, I went to Catholic school, okay, and what did I hate about Catholic school? What did I hate about Catholic religion, I guess, is it was all built on this, built on fear and guilt, right? And with Catholics, it's a guilt, and we've done all these terrible things in the past, and you must feel bad about it, right? Okay, and you're born with this guilt, right? Now, that's a control mechanism. That's what that is. That's all that is. It's got. So I rejected that. I hated that, and I stepped away from that. Now we're seeing the exact same thing going on right now in social systems, and you're teaching boys that they are faulty females. And this is the thing, when I say
females, that's just shocking.
But that's what it is. And you know what? Here is the thing. When I make this statement, some people are going to go, oh God, there he goes, misogynist rant. It's not misogyny. For a start, most people don't even know what misogyny is. Go get yourself a dictionary, look it up. I'm not even going to say what it is. Most people think that if you say anything negative about a woman, it's misogyny. No, it's not. Because I'm not saying anything negative about a woman. What I'm saying is the fact that boys deserve respect and support as well.
Absolutely.
Right? And when we've got 100%. So many people killing themselves, when right now the effective budget towards male suicide, right? So there's this massive, massive budget. But the way they break it up, and I could bore you all to death with this, but I won't. Of the billions of dollars that are being currently spent on mental health and to stop suicide, do you know how much percentage of that is actually focused on men?
I didn't. I really don't know.
And you shouldn't know, because why would you, right? Unless you delve into it.
I can tell you as in case studies.
Yeah.
My own case studies.
Right.
But other than that, in worldwide, in the big world.
Well, in Australia right now, it's less than 20% of the budget goes towards men. So explain this to me. If 76% of suicides are male, why are they only getting 20% of the budget? Is that equality?
That's just shocking.
Yeah. Now, has anything I've just said, in any of those statements, has anything been anti-women?
I know you, Aaron. You're surrounded by
women. I am the luckiest guy alive. I'm surrounded by awesome women.
You are at the height of really respect, and you do have a high regard for women. So, and speaking on that topic of suicide, I have a really big issue with it, and that is that they're keeping it under wraps.
Of course
they keep it a secret. You know, when something is in the dark, it will continue, but when something is brought out into the light, it will disappear.
Spot on.
And I really feel that they're really closing that topic down. And, this is where the theologians got very upset because, you're talking about babies that get terminated, you're talking about suicides, you're talking about all those things. So when it comes to predestination, that was a huge thing in terms of suicide and terminations. So, it is. I mean, this is a deep subject.
It really is,
It is.
But it should be talked about.
I think so.
Something you've just said, about people not being aware of this, right? So I'll look down the camera, so to speak, on this one. It is important for people to know, right? Okay, how often when you have a delay out there in your you're getting on the train, the train's been delayed, right? Do you know why your train's been delayed?
Sole contract?
No, your train has been delayed because someone's committed suicide and jumped in front of the train. Do you know how many people, not always, obviously, do you know how many people, and I am averaging here, jump out in front of trains per week in Western Australia? Okay?
I know.
Every week.
Yes.
It's averaging one a week committing suicide in front of your train. So people go, it's been delayed, I've got to take the bus. It's not on the news. It's not being talked about because they don't want to have copycats. And I don't want to make copycats either. But I want people to be aware that this is happening.
Do you know how big that is, Aaron? I couldn't count on one hand how many male train drivers I have had to do therapy with in NLP.
I'm so glad you've been honest about that. You'll
honestly,
share that.
Because it's not like I'm going to mention their names, but their lives went down the freaking toilet.
Of course it does.
They became so triggered. They went into PTSD. So, until they were able to get that vision out of their mind, and because here they are in this position where they're the train driver, they can't do anything.
Nothing
and then they get stuck with that vision in their head forevermore, unless they do something about it.
Yeah, well, this is what NLP just jumps out of the page, doesn't it? And hypnosis for that matter as well. So, I mean, for me, I think that if you can retrain and reprogram yourself, I guess, for want of a better term, to get those. I mean, look, you can't. I don't think you can ever forget.
You can never.
But you know what? If you can just sort of unplug the wire and then move it up to another spot and plug it into another spot.
That's right.
So
what happens actually on that, Aaron, is that we're doing a specific fast phobia cure
Okay.
that is not removed. Like, it'll never be a good thing. They'll never be able to say, oh, that was actually okay, because it's not okay. But their body remembers, so it's filed away in their physical system. So even when they're not thinking about it, something might come along and boom, trigger them. And and this is the way it happens for everything.
Of course
we get triggered. That's why it's like, what happened? What just happened? Why did I do that? Why did I? But it was trapped in the nervous system. So what happens is we release that. We actually dissolve that. We release it and we clear it out of the nervous system, so that they can go on with their life and it becomes more like a movie. Okay, so that is a terrible thing that's happened, and that goes on the shelf if I ever want to revisit it, but it's not in their body, out of their control.
Gotcha. I think that's I think it's the best way you can possibly deal with it. I really do. It's such a horrific thing. I mean, I walked in on a guy who was committing a suicide. Actually, it's happened to me twice. But once, it is just horrific.
Soul contract, though, Aaron. You were meant to. That was meant to happen.
I don't know.
What's the end of the story, though?
Well, good news. Both of those men survived. Which is a wonderful thing. The second guy, I literally pulled the noose off his neck. And like to walk into someone's house, and it's a beautiful house and beautiful big balustrading, and had this real great feel about the way you go in there, and then but that's not what I saw. I see a guy who's about to leap off the top. It's just unbelievable. And soul contracts, if they do exist, and because I'm still on the fence on this one, then wow, what a lot of responsibility to carry.
I can see a pattern right here, because that's a lot to do with it. Themes and patterns. Okay. So even though you, being that person who makes that inroad in the superhero part, where you may not be saying that, and I know that's not what you said,
no.
But who knows what would have happened to those two men if you hadn't walked in right at that very second of time. But who do you make a stand for? You make a stand for men. You make a stand for those men who are being crucified. And so therefore your subconscious mind, the universe, doesn't know the difference between being crucified by losing their family, losing their kids, and losing everything, to losing their life. And you've been that person on the other side.
And funny, well, not funny, certainly not funny. There's a pattern in both of those occasions, and I've been involved in more than just that, but physically walking in on two people. Both of them, once was a breakdown of a relationship, okay, and he just didn't feel that he was going to be. His wife left him, and it was just really awful. And he had to own a big part of that, because his behaviour was not at all good. But end of the day, it's still horrible that it affects you so much you want to kill yourself. The other one was a gentleman who has went through the family court, and his ex-wife was holding their child away from him, and at that stage he hadn't seen his daughter for 6 months, and he finally just gave it up. He just been handing money hand over fist to lawyers, to settlements, and all that kind of carry on, as like, please, if I give the more money I give you, like, will you just let me see my daughter? And no, that was actually the feeding pellet of it. And he realised that if he gave any more money, it wasn't going to make any difference. So but that was the moment he decided.
That's actually what on a much smaller, minuscule point of view, that's exactly what this tradie is doing. He knows that we're desperate for our kitchen to get finished, and it's a war zone. And my husband's in no fit state to be walking around a war zone, with his reputation. And he is calling for us to be desperate. So you give me more money. So and every second day, give me more money, give me more money, because he's playing on that desperation.
That's right.
And this is what people do, and it's absolutely it's just disgusting.
It is disgusting, and I'm going to throw out the word that. And by the way, hello to Leanne there. Lovely to see your comment before. Just want to say hi. Thank you for that. Not on at our normal time, so it's great to catch up later on with all the questions on all the different sites, because that's the thing, we don't get to see them till afterwards, which is one of those things. Such as life.
We will catch up on them.
Definitely, and that's a great thing. Leave the comments, because obviously we'll find them next week, or during the week rather, talk about them next week. But yeah, look, I'm going to use the word again. I've been using it a lot today. Evil. Right? There's a degree when things stop being disgusting or wrong or morally wrong, and they sort of step into another category. And we're seeing when you take advantage of someone like that, when you see someone who is weak and vulnerable, like I judge a society on how they judge their most vulnerable. Okay, so I judge society on how they they deal and protect those who are homeless or have addiction issues or mental illness, all those sorts of things. Right, that's where I go on that. And when I see people who prey on that, it's not even, it's disgusting. To use your term, okay, which I normally would. I think it's kind of, it takes it to another step. I do think it's a level of evil.
But I feel like when people become desperate, see, if I'm going to be true to myself, remember the presupposition. Everybody is always coming from the highest intention.
Yeah.
Where's that guy coming from? He needs to feed his body with that, that drug addiction fix that would possibly put him into cold turkey if he doesn't get it.
Yep.
So he becomes the strongest link, if you will.
Right.
And because he's the strongest link, you know what Napoleon Hill says, the one with the most certainty will win. And, unfortunately for him or for us, he has more certainty about feeding that.
Well, he's put himself in a position of power, right? Yeah, exactly. And then to be frank, he's doing it very, very selfishly. Yes, I understand that if he's got a drug addiction, the drug is making him, is forcing him to do it. But guess what? And this is my little argument on this one, we still have free will.
We do.
And you have the right, okay, you have the power in you to go, no, I'm not going to fall for this, right? I'm not going to take the drugs. I'm very lucky. I sit here as a guy who's never been addicted to drugs, so I don't, I suppose I don't know that lifestyle. But I've had several friends in my life who are or have been in the past, right? And when actually one of my friends who was addicted to drugs, or I had the conversation, I said, I'm so glad that you're past that, you're not addicted anymore. And you know what this person said to me? They said, no, I'm still an addict. I'll always be an addict. I'm just right now choosing not to feed my addiction.
A bit like the alcoholism.
That's the same thing, yeah.
I mean, I had a bit of an issue with that. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. Being one drink away, because I'd like to think, because alcohol is not as damaging as drugs are.
Sure.
So, I mean, if we can, ensure that we're in control of what we're putting into our body, rather than what's outside of our body being in control of us.
Correct.
And, this is where everything that happens to us is part of the plan. This is what the soul contract is all about. So even with, the greatest teachers, so you'll see some of the questions that
I was going to ask about this.
Yeah. So we've got relationship questions, health questions, and I can't remember the other one, but so they're all relevant. So,
Well, let's jump into the questions. Really cool.
Let's do that.
Always, I love a question from Dallas. Very cool part of the world. Texas right there. Thank you, Claudia, for your question. Really appreciate that. Now, Claudia said, my mother has cancer, is not ready to go. We're not ready to lose her either. If chemo and radiation cannot help her, does she have any chance through mindset? If so, what insights can you share about how we might support her through her soul contract?
Okay, so thank you for the question.
Great question.
I'm going to quote up Deepak Chopra, which I know I have done in this show before. And Deepak Chopra says, the eaves of your mind are actually eavesdropping on the cells of your body, and vice versa. So the cells of your body are really creating. So dis-ease comes from dis-ease of the mind.
Yeah. I didn't know that until about 5 odd years ago. Yeah.
So it can show up and manifest. And if you look under, and because this is my belief system, some people will go, what a load of crop. But, I can tell you that my belief system, and, even scientifically proven, that what is going on in our body is as a result of something that is not aligned and something that we need to deal with. So, for example, I've seen people very close to me.
Right.
I had one particular man I used to care for many years ago, and he had cancer riddled through his body. Now, I'd just become a keen hypnotherapist, and he was always interested in the work that I did. So we went on this crusade to work through a lot of the bitterness. And, you know, by the way, shame and guilt, you were mentioning guilt before. It's the lowest frequency. Did you know that? It's the lowest frequency.
Makes sense, though.
You know, so if people are using guilt and shame, that is going to push someone down. And that with resentment, you know, bitterness and hatred really left unresolved causes this. Now, we can't help it. These are natural human traits. If we get hurt, of course it's going to show up in our body. We're going to feel what we feel. But when we feel what we feel, if we don't let it go, it manifests. It kind of festers. And fester comes from manifest. So, yeah, because remember we were saying the other day, it's not just manifesting good, but it's manifesting bad as well. So Deepak Chopra did a testing where he had terminally ill patients. And the ones that were full of anger, full of hatred, and kept going along that line, they just kept on going along the typical path of what the medics say. You know, they end up, you know, the sickest, and that's where it all ends. Where the people on the other side, where they become really creating love, forgiveness, and all of that kind of energy, they became healed. And, you know, so, I mean, I'm not promising anything here, but I can tell you that that man that I did take care of, he did a lot of healing on his mind, forgiveness in his family, and released it. Do you know, when he died of kidney failure. And he was supposed to be, according to the x-rays, riddled in cancer. Now, just before he died, because he'd gone to a different hospital, the nurse came up and says, look, I've got something to tell you. And I went, yeah, sure, what is it? And he goes, we found a little bit of cancer on his prostate. And I'm like, really?
Really?
You know, like that was supposed to be something really bad. But the fact is that he cleared the cancer in his own body. The body, your nervous system is the first thing that gets laid down. I know this because Ian talks about it all the time. So it gets laid down at birth. There is no miraculous phenomena as there is a nervous system that can create something from nothing. So therefore, why couldn't it resolve, dissolve, and clear disease from the body?
Makes sense to me, doesn't it? Yeah. I mean, I just know that with, I believe in a bit of mind over matter. And I know that when I've been sometimes getting a bit of a flu or whatever, you know, just the sniffles, and I go, you know what? I haven't got time for this. Okay. I'm too busy. I've decided not to be sick.
Ain't got no time.
Ain't got no time now. So, yeah, I do that. And it genuinely makes a difference to me, right? And okay, and I'll sort of spin this a little further. I've been, as people know, I haven't been very well over the last few weeks. I've had a really, really tough time. Yada, yada. Now, when I'm telling you right now, when I analysed it myself a little bit, when I was very, very sick, I was also very, very sad. Okay? So, you know, like it just brings your vibration down. And because I was sick, I was allowing that to, you know, happen. And with the two of them working together, it kind of keeps you down. Now, I just decided, no, look, I don't have time for this again. Okay? I don't want this. I'm tired of being tired. I don't want to be sad. Okay, I've got too many things in my life that are positive to be living in sadness right now, and I kind of made that decision. Now, I have felt better ever since. I'm still a bit under the weather. I'm not. You
were
back.
Going through a detoxification.
I think so.
I do have to mention this because I told Mum that you'd been ill, and she prayed for you.
Oh, thank you.
She sat there
very
and
sweet
she
of her.
prayed. Yes.
Appreciate that.
There you go, Mum.
Nice, and it worked a treat. I think there's a lot to be said about, you know, about just positive energy and mindset on this kind of thing. Because if you, I mean, look, sadness and physical pain, they kind of go hand in hand. So for this person, for Claudia there, you know, if if your dad's feeling better about himself, if he's looking at the positivity of his life, he's looking at the things that have, really worked for him, the family and the things you're surrounded with. Then do you know what? I mean, I'm not saying it'll cure him because I certainly don't know.
It's mum, actually. I think mum or dad.
My apologies, mum. My apologies there.
Yeah.
So with mum, if mum sort of just turns the frown upside down and puts a bit of positivity about it all. And really reflect on the fact your beautiful kids and your grandkids and your life. I think it'll take a lot of the pain away.
And look, is there a soul contract for that? Well, according to the research that I've done in this topic, I'm not saying that I completely believe this, but apparently yes.
Okay.
People actually sign up for that, but they don't remember they've signed up for it.
Right.
And it's almost like, well, why would anybody? It's a bit
why would you sign up for it?
When you say that you're going to get married, I heard this somewhere.
I'm definitely not saying I'm getting married, but okay.
When you say you're going to get married and you say I do, they say it's the longest, it's the shortest sentence, but it's also the longest sentence.
Ain't that the truth? Oh, look, in my heart, I wanted to get married and be married for life and have, the picket fence that everybody sort of talks about. But, it's not for everybody. It doesn't work out for everyone. And I think that relationships...
I believe that.
Yeah, I think relationships are like while they're happening and you're living in them, once they've passed their time and they no longer serve you or the person you're with, then it's time to move on. And and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think, certain things have a use by date, right? And we throw the milk out, right? And I'm not saying throw your partner out, but I'm just saying that when time comes, we can transition and you know what, you can still love that person. You can still have all of the care about them. But your time has ended. Yeah,
well, that's what they even say. If you've got a soul contract with someone, you'll come together anyway. But if it's destined that it's going to end, it will have a use by date, as you say. So, and just quickly on that one too, to Claudia, DeMartini is really big on this topic, and he went to a lady who was dying of cancer on her bed, and she had all her kids, they were adult kids, they'd all had to fly in from all around the world.
Right.
And he said to her, what was your wish? What do you think your subconscious wish was that put you into this position? And as he dug deeper and deeper, she said, I always wanted to have my kids around me. And there she was, surrounded by them. So, sometimes the subconscious doesn't know right from wrong.
Sure.
It'll just bring in what it perceives you want. So always be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, that's good advice. All right, we've got a comment here from a question from Clive from Sydney. Thanks, Clive, for writing in. My wife left me heartbroken and took my son. I'm battling in court to gain access to him. But I feel crushed and I can't see any goodness in this. Can NLP help with the depression and heartbreak I'm feeling so I can function again?
Well, my thoughts initially on that, Clive, and this was from a moral perspective, and that was no, because my thoughts were that you don't touch the affairs of the heart. Right. You don't break through whatever that predestination, but that was only my belief, right? Okay. So I had a man who did come to me, and he knew the work that I was doing, and he knew that it worked. Right. So when he was in a heartbroken situation, he said, Terri, can you help me with this? And I said, look, I'm not going to. And, he said, but why not? You can help me with this, this, and this. And I said, because this is a heart. This is something that, I just don't want to touch. And, this went on for some months. And in the end, he said, I can't even function. It's
can't function. That's exactly what Clive said here. And he's bang on the money on that one.
Yeah. He said, it's affecting my whole life. I go to bed thinking about it. I wake up thinking about it. And that's when it becomes fight, flight. And you know what? I caved into him.
And I'm really glad you did. Really glad.
It took a while, but I did.
Because I'm going to disagree with you on this one. I'm so glad you did. You get to a point, and I'm sure everybody's different, but certainly, and I can clearly identify with Clive on this one, but you are living in pain, right? I'm talking about emotional pain here, okay? When you've had your children stolen, you are living in pain, through your day. So you struggle through every bit of your day. Then you go to sleep, and all night you have nightmares about your children. Then you wake up, and so it is the last thing you think about. You think about it through your sleep. In the morning, it's the first thing you think about. You are just, and you, for me, I was probably falling into this for like a really long time. Okay. And I would function, but it was at an extremely painful level. So my work life, I understand, mate. I would really encourage you to get involved. Look, and speak to Terri one-on-one, to be frank.
Or an NLP practitioner who knows about this work.
For sure. There you go.
So as a result, that guy was able to function again. But sometimes too, like we go through really hard things in our life, and this is just part of the circle of life. We're just always going to meet with these challenges. And, what we really have to do is, rather than run away from them, we have to face them to some degree, and even put ourselves, because when we're doing NLP, if we look at it from the, another perspective, what we're doing is we're putting them through the fire. And we're getting them to really go in and feel that pain, but in a very, very safe way.
Right.
And done in a way where they can expand themselves, bring them into the pain, and then blow it out of the water.
Okay. I mean, to me, I think that, look, I would just like to see Clive, get the help that he needs so he can function. Because ultimately, you need to be the best person you can for when you do have your children back in your life, if you're lucky enough to actually achieve that. But so you've got to preserve you for that. Hopefully, when that connection happens again. So, from my point of view, mate, yes, definitely talk to a practitioner. That's from a personal standpoint, I would definitely recommend it. We've got a question here, and I think we'll have to make this the last one for the day. But from Lyndall from Melbourne. Thank you for getting in touch, Lyndall. Okay. Now, I've been suffering from workplace bullying and have had to take sick leave. After doing a program with Terri, I faced even bigger battles and am now scared to go back. As a single woman, I don't know if I should leave or tolerate it for the financial stability. How do I navigate this? So this is obviously something you've dealt with in the past.
This is a classic. This is really a big classic about someone who hasn't learned. So I do know this particular person. Okay. So when they were really diving into this situation, I got them to go into a visionary of, what do you prefer? So this, and at that stage that wasn't happening in their life.
Okay.
So they weren't being bullied as such, and they were just not liking the job, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Yep.
And so we went into visualizing what it looks like for her to have the greatest day. What does that place feel like? What's the frequency in her body? Now, she did so much intensive work around this that she's brought it back, and she's holding on to this gold.
Okay.
But then she walked into the same workplace that wasn't that bad and got absolutely punched.
Whoa.
So it's almost like the universe going, are you going to listen? And this is what happens to us. So my honest thoughts is, you need to listen to what your soul is telling you.
Yeah, well, thoroughly agree. I think as far as listen to your soul, not so much to your bank account, quite frankly.
Yes, the golden handcuffs.
Oh, man, it is so true.
How many people are... they're in, Corp Australia, Corp America. Yep. I deal with them on podcasts all the time. That's the attraction. And they're caught up in this high level. They're earning so much salary, big money, but they're absolutely freaking miserable.
Yeah, spot on. Lifestyle is far more important, and what serves your soul is far more important, in my eyes, than financial gain. I've played both games. And I would tell you right now, I'm taking wrong. No one likes being broke because it's tough. Okay, when you broke, you're lacking options. Okay, so I have a little expression I like to call. Well, I've stolen it from a rather large band. Be comfortably numb. Okay, like enough money that you've got options. Okay, that you're not living in that fight flight about the fact of where do you get your next meal, how do you pay your rent, how do you pay your this, how do you pay your that. Like just enough money that's kind of does that. but you're still doing something that actually genuinely feeds your soul. If you're working for a soulless corporation, or you're doing something you're not aligned with, okay, you know what? Your bank balance may look fantastic, but who the hell are you working for? Are you working for you, or are you working for the man?
Exactly.
Right?
You can't take your money with
No,
you.
you can't.
And your riches and your wealth are within yourself. But you know what? When you said that, comfortably numb, I literally flashed back. That triggered me to the concert that was here in the 80s.
Yeah.
That concert?
I wasn't there. No.
There.
Oh, you lucky bugger.
Yeah,
okay. Wow. What band was that?
PF?
Huh?
Pink Floyd.
Yes. I don't wonder why are you not saying it? Yeah, Pink Floyd concert.
I wasn't sure whether we were supposed to promote or not.
Oh,
being a radio station.
Yeah, it's quite all right. We can just say whatever we like. That's called free speech.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that was a pretty big concert. A friend of mine actually went to that and just loved it. And I was like, I missed out on that. But
I remember I tripped over a guy that had a cast, but lucky I didn't get his leg. I just tripped over it.
No.
But it was great. It was a really good concert. They sound as good as they do on, when they're on stage or when they're recording, basically.
Absolutely amazing band, and a lot of really good stories there. And it's so funny because I've got this terrible habit of I can music lyrics fall into my head constantly. Right, could be because I've got a kind of a career wrapped around music, I guess, but. All right, when you said before about frequency, right, all I had in my mind was, what's the frequency, Kenneth, right? I was thinking about REM, right?
Okay, wow.
See, that's how my mind works. Right? It's a struggle to be in here, trust me. But why that just resonated with me is because I just thought to myself, okay, you've got Man on the Moon and you've got that song and many others. It makes me want to go revisit listening to REM because I think there's so many really good stories in there and really very thought-provoking kind of things like Man on the Moon. All right, that is when you listen to the lyrics, you might look at things a little differently. That's just a thought. All right, but with that little bombshell, I think we should end the show. Thank you very much for being part of it. Of course, it is the Genius Zone here on Edge Radio Australia.
Thank you for joining us on another empowering episode of our show where we have explored through this various topic along with all the exciting new topics that we bring every week to enhance your personal mastery of excellence. Now, I'd love you to do me a favor. In fact, be part of the Legacy 1 million that I have in the vision for 2028. If you know someone who really would benefit from this recording, from this episode, please share it with them. And when you subscribe, you get notified every week of our episode as soon as it drops. So let's do that legacy thing. Let's share, let's care, let's enrich. And I look forward to bringing you another week of the most enriching content. So until next time, stay inspired, stay awesome, and keep on mastering your excellence.